Going to be ready to start, Gail, at 6 o'clock. You're going to press record and then I'll know we're good to go.
This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect. If I can get a mover and a seconder for our first to open. Belinda and Peter. Okay, moved by Belinda Kistemaker, second by Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that we do call this regular meeting of council to order on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Those in favor? And that's carried. And I'll hand it over to Deputy Mayor Stefanik for our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The Council of the Corporation of Township of Hornepayne would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the land on which we gather here today is the Treaty 9, 1905 to 1906 territory, the traditional lands of indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live in respect on this land and live in the peace and friendship with its all diverse peoples.
Thank you. Continuing on with our agenda, we have our approval of the agenda. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Belinda. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor? And that is carried. Item number 5 is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof and declaration of conflict of interest. Council, you can do that now or anytime throughout the meeting. I don't have any paperwork as of now, so if anything arises, let me know. Moving on to item number 6, the adoption of the minutes. If I can get a mover and a seconder for our regular meeting of December 8th. Peter and Belinda. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, as distributed. Any comments on the minutes? Those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we're moving on to item number 8. If I can get a mover and a seconder for the manager's reports, please. Drago and Peter. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the manager's reports provided at the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. And our first manager's report is the CAO report. Gail, would you like to speak to your report or you want to go right to questions? Anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor Fort. I do have a couple of things to add that have come up since I've written the report. So one, I just wanted to let council know that the submissions for the Hazardous Waste Day have been done. So I don't know what we'll be getting back, what rebate we'll be getting back, but that work is complete. The OGRA conference was rescheduled today from February until April 10th to the 13th, and they're still planning to have it in person. So we'll make those changes to our reservations and whatnot. And I wanted to let everybody know that I was speaking to Ben Cohen today, and he advises that there are lots and lots of meetings going on in the background with construction manager and engineers. So it's all very exciting. Things are moving forward. So he's hoping to come to town in February once this semi-lockdown, I guess, or whatever it's called, is over. So things are moving forward despite nobody, really seeing any action taking place. And then just a couple of things. I did hear back from, with regard to the Forests Ontario billboards. I did contact Carlo and at the lumber mill, and they are interested in participating and partnering with us to split costs on a billboard. So I think it's a really good investment for a little amount of money. So just looking for some feedback there. And then the other thing that came up this week, and I think I forwarded it to councillors Stefanik and Kistemaker with regard to the Roma conference. Hydro One is offering meetings. So if there's something that you would like us to bring up to Hydro, I can request a meeting. So if I could just get some feedback on those two things, that would be great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gail. So I love the idea of the billboards, by the way. That's great. I think we've talked about this in other meetings with the OPP and everything about that these are great jobs, the forest is renewable, and we have to start advertising that it's out there as well. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions for Gail for the report. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I did look at the signs. I like them. I like the one with the job/family. That would be my favorite. But I mean, that's my take on that one. It's the bottom left side. And I always feel family is a unity, and I think it's appropriate. And the other comment I have from the receiver report, which is well done, to congratulations to Melissa. Wonderful marks. I love when people do well. Good job and congratulations for you. Fine effort, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stefanik. And I agree. That's pretty impressive. Good job. We have great staff. Okay. One question that was there other questions from the floor from council? I'm not seeing any at this time. So I just wanted to talk about the public consultation for the arena rehabilitation. And I think it's great. Why I wanted to just touch on it was possibly a survey to the fitness users through their email. I thought it was great for council just to know. I did buy a user pass and I've been trying to use the system. Of course, it's closed down right now, but it was pretty awesome that the day that everything closed down, I was informed through an email. I just thought we're getting digital, and you don't usually see it from council end unless you're participating. So it was pretty good. And the other item that I wanted to just touch on that was I was invited today to speak at one of our elementary schools in their classroom in their virtual setting. And this actually came up because there was a discussion on how young people in the classroom could get involved. So when we do have a discussion on it, I just wanted to mention it now so we didn't bypass that, because they would be a primary user group of this new facility we're going to have. So they might have some good input for us. And that was all the comments I had. I'm excited to get underway of it. Can you tell? Okay, if there's nothing further then, thank you, Gail. We'll move on to our next report. And that's the Client Service Manager's report. Treasurer, Melissa, would you like to speak to your report first or add to it? Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you. No, I don't have anything to add to my report, but I just want to say thank you to Gail for acknowledging my achievements, and also thank you, Drago and Mayor Ford.
Congratulations. Big thumbs up. I reiterate all of that from all of council to you, Melissa. Okay, I'll open up the floor for questions or comments to the Treasurer's report. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, great job on the report, Melissa. I found it very enlightening on page 2 of the report. Reassessments have no impact on the local property tax amount the municipality raises. it's simply distributed. So there's no extra, some people have and talking to spell different people think we get more taxes. We do not get more taxes. It's just make equalize it. And I think that has to be sort of given to the people they're not sure about. I think that there's a misconception out there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. Any other further questions on Melissa's report? The only thing I wanted to say that it was a really good meeting with Jeremy about MPAC and just discussing, because the MPAC assessments have been frozen now due to the pandemic, and just talking about what that looks like into the future. And obviously you can't tell what's coming into the future, but it was a good discussion. It's always nice to meet with Jeremy at MPAC. I find we have a really good relationship with them all, and they took the time to chat with us, so that was great. Okay, any further, Councillor Paroff, I see your mic's off. Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say that it's a great report, easy to read. I just appreciate that. I have no questions.
Okay. Melissa, I'm sure you heard that. Okay, moving on then, we're to the public managers or public works managers report. And Dwayne, would you like to speak to your report before I open up the floor for questions?
Not to speak to my report, just want to let you know I just come from, looks like we have another water leak here in town.
Yay! Happy New Year to us. Isn't this wonderful? I'm not sure the correct response like I am on camera, but wow, I feel your frustration, guys. Like, this is, what are we at now? Are we keeping a running total?
Trying to.
Yeah. Well, is this the first one of this year?
For sure, it's the first one this year so far.
Well, there's the upside to this, the silver lining of it all.
We had a sewer plug yesterday though, so that's.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to say, I had said that in the classroom discussion today, that before I was mayor, I never really, like, even as councillor, I didn't really think too much about the water lines in the sense unless they came up for discussion. But as soon as I became mayor, the first day I was mayor, we had the whole water tank drained. And this weight of me that every time it gets cold, I'm not worried about just my pipes freezing. I'm worried about everyone's pipes freezing. What's going to happen? Oh, yeah. So anyway, continue on. I'll open up the floor for discussions for Dwayne. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just to go on the same theme. That was actually, I'm looking at his last paragraph where there was 2 water leaks, and I noted that. It seems at time when the water leak occurs now, it was a shoddy job being done, and it explains in his last paragraph, the water line was installed in rock blast trench. They did not remove the rock. So obviously shoddy work comes back to bite you 8, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And that's why I keep saying over and over, we have the key for municipal council, us as a group, a team, we have to look at infrastructure and start somewhere, maybe 3rd Avenue. As you'll see my report, I'll discuss it after, but we have to work on infrastructure because the cost is going to be insurmountable as we're progressing.
Yes, yes. And I was assured by Gail when we had our pre-meeting that it was backfilled with that it was backfilled properly of that portion that was redone. So that's good. I just have one question about, while the arena and the fitness facilities are closed, is there other work going on that we are able to do in that time in the facility?
Right now, they're doing a major cleaning of all areas above and beyond, getting ready for the construction, getting rid of all the stuff that's not necessary anymore.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I guess we'll have to find, because some of the associations have storage and stuff up there.
Correct.
Right, right. Okay. Okay, any further questions for our Public Works Manager? Belinda, go ahead.
going back to our previous meeting when we were talking about the upstairs, doing the renovations that were supposed to get done, where are we on that? For the,
We're still in meetings talking about discussing what we're doing.
okay. All right, so we haven't gone any further that we're getting it done or anything like that?
I see that Gail's going to speak. I think this is coming up on another meeting. Let me go to Gail here. We'll have further answer. Go ahead, Gail.
Yep, Stacy's got a report coming for the next meeting on the 26th for the budget meeting. So we met with Judy Mann today, and we're going to look at some options, and then Stacy will do up a report.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Belinda. Thank you, Gail. Any further questions or comments on the public manager's report? Public Works Manager. I'm having a difficult time with your title today, Dwayne. Okay, not seeing any. So thank you, Dwayne, very much. Moving on to the Economic Development Officer. Stacy, do you have any additions or comments for your report?
No, I don't have anything to add, but I'll take questions.
Okay, great. I open up the floor for questions for the Economic Development Officer. Go ahead, Belinda. Councillor Kistmaker.
The thing on the seniors grant that we were denied, was wondering, were you able to talk to anyone about what we still need to do to go forward, or?
So I have a meeting set up with Patricia Ricard next week to go over the application again.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll probably have an update on that on our next meeting, Stacy. Okay, thank you for that. Well, I guess our next meeting, we're not having managers' reports on that meeting. No, so it'll be the February meeting. Okay, great. Any other comments or questions for Stacy? Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, through you. At the Pavilion Park where they're starting to install equipment, I meant to say this before, because I have great interest in playground equipment. I see one of the pieces of equipment that is behind the pavilion. It wasn't a real good location to install that area. They have a massive rock. Did they think of what's going to happen once they install it? Because the rock will be moving along with the frost, and the piping of the equipment is very close to the, as when I looked at it in the fall, very close to the rock area. Well, do you think that might run into a problem 2 or 3 years from now?
So are you talking about the swing or the actual play structure?
The play structure, the apparatus, yeah.
Okay.
It's right above the, I mean, there's not much movement for the legs or the structure, and that rock will move with frost over the years. It's a beautiful piece of equipment. I looked at it and I installed a few structures in my lifetime, and that's too close for comfort, in my opinion. Thank you.
So when we dug out, there was a lot of rock there. So Public Works Department removed 3 big rocks, one the size of the back of a truck. So that was all taken out. So to the towards the CN yard, there's a massive rock, which is it's down a little bit lower. Definitely couldn't be removed, but it's probably 8 to 10 feet away from the structure. But it's that whole hill. That's why we didn't cut it straight down, because that whole back part before where the trees were is all rock.
Okay, that answers your question, Jago, or Councillor Stefanik, yes. Thank you for that. And just on that, so coming this year, because we have received the additional funds, and I spoke about it today, and I was thinking I should really get clarification on everything we're doing before I say this is what's happening. And the mayor said, so what, like, I see your next steps in your report, but would you be able to just highlight those for us, Stacy?
So the FedNor grant that was the grant we put in for up to $100,000 for the outdoor bathroom, the LED lighting, the landscaping, trees. And I think I'm missing one thing, but I can't think of what it is right now.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody else. Yeah, so I'll list those things in my next report for sure.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. That's just such a good news story. And I applaud the staff because if you remember, I was putting my heels in the ground because I was worried we're going to overwork us. Go ahead, Gail, go ahead.
Well, that still may be true, but I just wanted to let you know that we are planning on, in the next few weeks, setting timelines for and scheduling in the work for the ball field, the park, the arena, things that we have to do for the arena. And Stacey, I'm forgetting something now too, but there are 3 or 4 things. Oh, demolitions, like we're going to schedule those in so to make sure they all get done on a timeline. So that we just haven't, it's the beginning of the year, we haven't had time to actually sit down and do that, but that will be done so that we can say, you know, on such and such a date, you know, this is going to be done by so-and-so, and on this date, this is going to be done by so-and-so. So we will have firm plans so that we are sure, because we do have a lot to juggle and to handle. So that's really the only way it's going to get done, you know, on time. So just so you know, that's in the works.
Okay, great. And just on that note, Gail, is that going to come to council at a upcoming meeting then? Just
it could eventually. It's not going to be part of our annual reporting. We won't have it done by that time, but we could, once it's laid out, we could certainly, you know, lay out the schedules for you. I mean, we're going to have them, so.
Okay, I think all of council would appreciate that, I think. Just to know and get excited about the work that all of us are doing combined. That's great. Okay, any other further comments or questions for Stacey? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Stacey. And we'll move on to pass our resolution, the acceptance of the manager's reports. I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so moving on to 9.1, Canadian National Railway. Okay, council, I open up the floor for discussion. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, through you to the treasurer. So our cost for 2022 as a municipality would be $100,000, about $200. So we have to budget for that, obviously, 50% of the cost to do the crossing, correct, Melissa?
Yeah, I wanted to tell council that from the last information that we got for the other crossing that they have just completed, we did receive that package, I want to say a couple years ago now, and we still haven't been billed or paid that. And we were provided direction from council to not pay that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
one was about, thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. That bill's sitting about 57,000 that we haven't been billed for. No, it's higher, Melissa, or lower?
No, sorry, I was saying, no, we haven't been billed for it. Yeah,
No.
it was, I think it was around 51,000.
51,000. Okay. I just want to, I had a discussion with Gail, and I'm just going to say my thoughts that I had put out there was about this letter. Was when you're reading it, it's like we are supposed to, by the Railway Act, we have to pay 50%. And I've brought this up before, that in the Railway Act, there is no mention of municipalities in that act. It's the federal government and the province. And, but it talks about the roadbed here, that damaged rail. First of all, I'm looking at the second paragraph, damaged rail, track ties, the fasteners, removal and replace of existing track ballast. That's not maintenance of a crossing. That's maintenance of a railway. And I don't think that we should be paying that part. So I'm not sure what all this 200,000 incorporates for the cost, but I think it's something we need to investigate, because it's not that portion of track, regardless of vehicles going across it or not, would have to be maintained. I don't know. To me, it feels like I'm paying, or we're going to be paying for a big corporate company's bill here. Part of it, anyway. Okay. Are you in agreement with Melissa? Are you in agreement with me? Go ahead. Go ahead, Melissa. Sorry.
I just wanted to further mention that I did send an email today to the Public Works Department at CN from the lady who sent us this email, and I wasn't able to get a hold of her. She's on an extended leave. So I sent another email to just a general Public Works Department. That was her auto reply. And they replied and said that they're still working on 2021 construction, and they'll get to us whenever they can. And thank you for their understanding. And there was no signature, no name, no phone contact number, nothing. So I was asking for a breakdown of all three of those components on the cost estimate, but I haven't gotten anywhere yet.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, we need to see it. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, just some background. This was historically always an issue. I could go back 15, 20, 30 years ago when I worked in municipality. Always the issue, as you pointed out, Mayor, what was actually being covered. And they were sort of really quiet on that, just maintenance of the crossing. And you're 100% correct. Why were we paying for ballast for crossing? So it's been an issue for the last 30 years.
And the other thing I'd like to mention too is that on certain crossings, and I don't know if this is in the act, it would be a different way to look at it, is in certain crossings that are utilized by their own company, which one of those would have to be. We know that one's being used quite regular by their fueling. Like why are we paying 50-50 for that? So that kind of, if it's just the municipality that's using it and our residents and other people and not the company, then I can see the 50-50. And even that 50-50, I think in the past, have we not in the past pushed some of these to Phenom or Roma, or so that other communities can get on board and see what they're paying? Have we done that,
Yeah,
Gail?
we have, and we've had discussions with Minister of Finance and Minister of Finance and other municipalities, partly because about that and partly about railway right away. So it's a national issue, actually. There's many small communities fighting these things, and I don't know for the life of me why something that's as outdated. I'm not sure if this is the 1973 Act, but one of them is 1977. Like, that's so outdated.
I take no offense to that, but just saying.
I got that one, so.
Only because all of you guys are older than me.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we have.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if there is, maybe that's something we can send to FCM and see if there's a discussion at the federal level with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and see if there's some sort of, maybe they could create a working group so that we can join our efforts. Like, our small little community can't take something like this on at all, but we definitely could forward information to help a group. Yeah.
I could send a letter stating our issues and asking if they've, ever looked into it, or if they will look into it. There's other communities that are suffering the same things, obviously, so I can do that.
Yeah, if council's on consensus on that, we can have that, the CAO write a letter on our behalf. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Do you need a resolution for that, Gail, or?
Well, it would have a little bit more oomph probably, but I think it would maybe put it at the next meeting so that we can take some time and word it properly.
Sure, that's great. And we'll just put it on with our budget meeting on that one.
Sure.
Or the next, that's fine. It's
Well, if
not,
I have time,
no,
if I
let's
have
do
time, yes, and if not,
our next
Regular?
regular meeting. Yep, yep.
okay, good.
We're not in any rush to pay them, so we're not in any rush.
Well,
We have
and
to do
it's
our
not gonna
background
change
work.
that quickly, so.
Yeah, we gotta do our background work. It might take us 5 years. Okay, any further discussion on that? So it'll come back to council with a resolution, just to make some movement on that, maybe with FCM, so, or not maybe, with FCM through a letter. Okay, so moving on to 9.2. Hornepayne Power. So you can see we received a letter there back in the end of November. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. John and Peter. Moved by John Paroff, second by Peter Kistemaker. Whereas the township has received correspondence from Hornepayne Power Incorporated regarding their letter to the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO, requesting the early renewal of their power purchase agreement, PPA. And whereas Hornepayne Power Incorporated cogeneration plant was designed based on an expected output of 18 plus megawatts, but was offered only 8 megawatts in the PPA due to the grid capacity at that time. And whereas Hornepayne Power Incorporated took on debt when purchasing the cogen and has been unable to make significant progress towards removing that debt due to the capacity constraints of the current PPA. And whereas the current expiration date of the PPA is February 2024, which will place Hornepayne Power Incorporated in a precarious financial position. Therefore, be it resolved that the council, the corporation, the township of Hornepayne does hereby provide for Hornepayne Power Incorporated's request to the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO, for an early renewal of their power purchase agreement, PPA. Be it further resolved that a letter of support outlining the above will be sent to Leslie Gallagher, President and CEO of the Independent Electricity System Operator, with copies to the Honorable Todd Smith, Minister of Energy, the Honorable Victor Fideli, Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and Hornepayne Power Incorporated. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Gail, did you want to speak to that or? No? Okay. Okay, 9.3. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and John. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by John Paroff. Whereas funding through FedNor's Northern Ontario Development Program has enabled the township to employ an economic development officer who has brought immense value to the municipality and the community of Hornepayne by playing a key role in both attracting investment and updating key foundational plans. And whereas the funding for this position was set at 3 years and is due to expire on October 31st of this year. And whereas there are countless planning and economic development initiatives in Hornepayne's future that are in need of someone to lead these projects and to carry them through to completion. And whereas the success of the township's initiative are dependent upon the entire municipal team working together to achieve common strategic goals, particularly growth and sustainability through economic development. And whereas the township is working towards establishing an economic development fund to reinvest into economic development initiatives and to self-fund an EDO, but finds itself needing more time to reach this goal. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the corporation, the township of Hornepayne, does hereby authorize Gail Jeremy, CAO Clerk, to apply to FedNor's Northern Ontario Development Program for dollars to fund a second 3-year term for an economic development officer, phase 2 of our EDO project. Be it further resolved that this application process consists of 2 separate stages, that funding levels are as follows. Year 1, position funded at 90%, year 2, position funded at 75%, year 3, position funded at 50%. And that the cost of the municipality will not exceed $105,000 over 3 years. $105,000 over 3 years, sorry. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I just want to say that we did meet. And from the understanding is that in the past, this has gone very well. Did you want to speak to that meeting at all, Gail, with Gord?
Sure. So we met with Gord Knowles, who's now, I'm not sure if he's his executive director, but he works for Destination Northern Ontario. But in his previous life, he was dealing with a second phase of funding for an EDO, and he found FedNor very open to the idea, and they got their funding at the levels that Mayor Fort just mentioned. And then there's another municipality, and I'm thinking it was Parry Sound, who also has gotten it. And when I had my first discussion with our FedNor rep, she seemed to be very open to it as well. So I think we have a really strong case. We won't have to work hard to come up with a good plan. We've already got our plans and we've already got initiatives underway. And I think it's a really easy sell. So it was great. Gord shared his knowledge, and he's offered to help with any wording that we might need, and we can call on him anytime. And we've also tapped into him, this is an aside, but we've also tapped into him to start talking about the Center of Ontario trail, and to see if we can find some funding through him that way with his help. So yeah, it was really positive, and I'm hopeful.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Gail. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, there being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 9.4, summer jobs. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and John. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by John Peroff. Be it resolved that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize Gail Jeremy, CAO Clerk, to submit an application for funding to Service Canada's 2021 or supposed to be 2022? 2022, I believe. Just stand by, council, just to make sure I've got the right. Yeah, it would be, I'm just going to adjust the resolution in your package to read 2022. To Service Canada's 2022 summer jobs program to hire 6 temporary employees. Application deadline is Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. Any discussion on the motion? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Peroff.
No, this is a great opportunity. I'm just wondering, a little on the sideline, can anybody other than a municipality apply for this? Any like a nonprofit organization?
I don't know about nonprofits. I know businesses can, and nonprofits probably can. And I believe that some organizations are actually 100% funded. I have to look at the guidelines, but sorry, let me just see here. I got them up here. I don't, but I can check that out for you.
Because I think Indigenous organizations got 100% funding. I remember reading that at one time.
There are some, and that might very well be the case. I'll check for you tomorrow. I don't have the file on my desk, but I can check for you and let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other further questions on the Service Canada's jobs? There being none, okay. I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 10 is correspondence information only. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Belinda. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the correspondence information only package attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. Is there any comments on the information only package in our agenda from council? It's quite a lengthy package. Go ahead, Councilor Para.
Yes, I just wanted to say that section 10.13, the Spectrum Telecom Group Limited. Yes, confirmed, yeah, they bought 5.0, but I've been talking to them, and 5 Point's they're still going to be here for another year, so 5 Point will be here on and off throughout the year to help them through the transition. And I spoke to them a little bit about a broadband hookup as we were, you know, how we're looking at getting broadband to the house. And they're doing a couple towns right now, and they are willing to negotiate a deal or something or talk to us later on in the spring. That's just for information purposes only at this point, so.
Okay, would it be something that we want to invite them to council? Would that be something they'd be interested in, John, or what kind of discussion are they looking for in the spring?
Initial conversation to begin with. They do that type of work where they do supply fiber to the home. And it's just really early on, they're just taking over our community. So let them get the wheels going, and later on in the spring, we can talk.
Okay, great.
So I'll keep in touch with them if council decides.
Okay. Any further discussions on information only? Anything that council would like to bring up from there? Go ahead, Gail. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was just noticing just before the meeting actually that I had placed the policy update from AMO. I should have put it under information only because they're actually looking for support for joint and several liability again, because there still hasn't been a report come out. So I can do up a resolution for the February 9th meeting if you like, in support of their, they've already gone after them and put out their paper and everything, but I guess they haven't got any action. So they're looking for some power from the municipalities behind them.
Okay, and you're in reference to item 10.17? It's the policy update that it's in there,
Yeah,
right?
10.17, yes.
Okay, great.
And just if I could, I meant to bring up underneath the, going back a bit to the Hornepayne Power proposal, but you and I had spoke briefly about possibly asking for an OGRE delegation to the, once you got this letter, to Ministry of Energy to see if we could maybe help them along. So if council's in agreement with that, I can add that to the OGRE delegation requests.
Yes, thank you for that, Gail. I knew there was something we had chatted about. That's what it's, and I couldn't remember at the time. I was like, what? Yeah. I
had it right in front of me, but it just, anyway.
But yes, that would be a good opportunity. And myself and Dwayne and Jen would be there, correct?
Correct.
So we all, that would be a good learning experience as well if we were able to hear a delegation. Do you need are you going to bring that back for a motion, or are you just going to request for the delegation?
I'll just put the request in, it's fine.
Okay, okay. Council's in agreement? Yeah, okay. Good. Okay, the one item that I wanted to just highlight was that the 10.3, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has an housing affordability task force. And I just wanted to know the members of that task force, if we could find out who they are. I want to make sure that we've got good Northern Ontario representation.
Yeah, so I actually sent an email out for that today, so hopefully I'll hear back soon.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Gail. Okay, so I think that's it. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favor to accept or acknowledge receipt of the packages? And that is carried. Okay, so moving on to 11, we have committee reports. 11.1 is for the public, Hornepayne Public Library. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and John. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by John Peroff. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the minutes from the Hornepayne Public Library from the Hornepayne Public Library Board regular meeting on November 25th, 2021. Any discussion on the minutes or the motion? Okay, there being none, those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item number 12, 12.1. And I'll hand it off to you, Gail. Would you like to speak to your report or add to it? The floor is yours.
I don't really have too much to add to it, and I know it's nice to have a nice written report, and I did one this time because so much has gone on between, and I did it over Christmas, which is why I had time to do it. So anyways, it's just, I mean, we all know we're back into a modified step 2. We all know the cases of Omicron are rising and they continue to rise. The hospitalizations are going up and the healthcare sector is strapped. They're now having people go in to work that are that have symptoms if they test negative. So other than, stressing for people to really keep to themselves, stay home, mask up and be careful, we're in trouble, and I think it's going to keep climbing for the next couple of weeks at least, and it's affecting, of course, workplace staff numbers all over the place, because now if one person in your household has symptoms, then everybody has to stay home, whether it be a school child or somebody from work. So it's really, we're feeling it here as well in the Public Works Department particularly. So, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. We just have to ride it out and work with it, I suppose. And I don't know if the restrictions will be lifted when they're expected to be on the 26th or not, or if they'll be extended, but we just have to go with it and try and stay positive and encourage people to get vaccinated and get boosted and follow the protocols.
Yes, for sure. Any comments or questions for Gail? Yeah, it's been a long, hard go here. And I just want to let council know that we've governed in an emergency situation longer than we governed in a non-emergency situation. Just to let you know, this is, and all the work that's being done under all of these conditions, it's, Go ahead, Councillor Peroff.
Thank you, Mayor. To Gail, I guess, or both of you, either one of you guys, I was just wondering the rate of individuals in the township that do not have any vaccinations at all compared to, I know you put out the reports, I just don't know what the numbers were.
Do you have the exact numbers, Gail?
I don't think we have that for our community. They haven't put that out for a long time. I can ask for it, but I haven't seen that report for months. They're just basically, actually, I haven't even seen it for our region so much lately. It's just been provincial. So I can ask and see if, I don't have anything, Mayor Fort. Did you see? I haven't seen anything.
I just know from our meeting in December, it was, we were at 87% of the 2 shots for our region.
Hornepayne?
Out for our
yeah.
region. Yeah.
For
yeah,
region, yeah.
Because we were higher. I remember the one person from Porcupine Health saying we were higher than most regions.
And I think we were higher than the provincial average, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't seen community numbers for a long time unless Councillor Stefanik, you may have, you sit on the board.
Do you have any information, Councillor Spanik?
No information lately at all, not for the last 2 months. Gail is correct. There was no numbers put out. Thank you.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Para.
if I could just follow that up, I found an interesting piece of information I read. I thought it was an email through the township, but the report went on to say that of all of Canada, only 17% have not been vaccinated. But out of that 17%, 50% of all hospitalizations from COVID are out of that 17%. So the numbers are very significant that people that don't get their shots end up more likely to go in the hospital, right?
That's definitely, I'm not sure about those numbers, but I know at our last community control group, we did have a discussion on this, that the regular hospitalization stays are about the same for vaccinated and unvaccinated, but it's the ICU that at the time of our
Yeah.
last community control group meeting, that the numbers of people in ICU, I'm not sure what the percentages are, but it's higher than 50% are unvaccinated in the ICU. But what's happening right now is we had some of those numbers of just how much hospitalizations are happening and just everyone's overworked, and then people are, it's crushing our system basically. Did you want to comment further on that, Gail, about the hospitalizations? I know we had the discussion. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything.
No, I think you got it. And I do look at the, I haven't looked at it today, but I do normally look at the Ontario Ministry of Health page, and it's got pie charts of hospitalizations, and it's got COVID related people who've gone in with COVID and people who have tested positive since they've gone in or went in for something else but tested positive for COVID. And then it's got also a section for how many are in the ICU and how many are on ventilators and how many of those are vaccinated or unvaccinated or the status is not known. So it's kind of interesting. And I think the pendulum actually for vaccinated for hospitalizations, there's actually more than unvaccinated now, but that kind of makes sense because this is spreading so rapidly that people are getting it. And the whole point was not that people wouldn't get it. The whole point was to save lives and to stop people from going into ICUs, which this is doing. But you're right, Mayor Fort, the ICUs are swinging the other way, that it's more of the unvaccinated that are suffering the most, I guess you could say. But it's interesting to check out that website. It's got hospitalizations is just one of them. There's 5 or 6 other sets of data that they have. So might want to check it out. It's good.
Yes, and that piqued my memory too. It was the number of unvaccinated people that are on the ventilators. That's another number that's very high. That's, yeah. So there's lots of people out there that are very ill, and it's an unfortunate situation for sure. Any other further questions or comments? If not, I guess I should have got a mover and a seconder. Usually I don't have a resolution at this point in the meeting. Throwing me for a loop. Can I get a mover, please, and a seconder? Peter and Belinda. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby receive staff report number CAO SR 2022-3 COVID-19 update as information at the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 12.2. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago. And Peter. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Peter Kistemaker. Whereas the township has received correspondence from the Hornepayne Housing Corporation, HHC, requesting that the township act as a co-signer / guarantor for their application for a corporate credit card having a credit limit of $10,000. And whereas a corporate credit card will allow the HHC to more easily conduct day-to-day business such as the purchase of office supplies, equipment, subscriptions, etc. And whereas HHC is willing to give in trust the $10,000 as collateral for the guarantee from unencumbered funds. And whereas council wishes to help facilitate the successful operation of the HHC and is at no risk of losing any money in this venture. Therefore, be it resolved that the council, the corporation, the Township of Hornepayne does hereby agree to permit the township to act as a co-signed guarantor for Hornepayne Housing Corporation's corporate credit card application and hereby authorizes the treasurer to sign the associated documentation. Any discussion or comments on the motion? Just for council's history on it, because we're a brand new corporation, we don't have 3 years of books to substantiate our own claim for this type of credit card. And that's why we need a guarantee for it. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 12.3, Councillor Stefanik.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you have an opportunity, I would really appreciate it as council to look at my long-term goals. The short ones are pretty simplistic, but the long-term, anything under 7 years, as was discussed last meeting. I'm not going to read the report, but re-roofing the arena facility, curling club, no question, within the next 7 years. Building public works garage, municipal office, infrastructure, road maintenance, and those are all $1 million projects. So I think it's wise to start budgeting long-term in sense of capital budgeting in reserves, because you're looking into hundreds of millions of dollars the next 6 to 7 years. Just some food for thought for us as a council, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. I'm just wondering from the report, just because we have short-term and long-term goals, in our strategic plan, are some of these items hit the strategic plan that we've set out, that they're incorporated within there? Like I'm thinking the recreation, the long-term recreation plan would cover some of these. We have a tourism plan. I'm just trying to fit exactly with what we have now. How do we ensure that we do cover these long-term and not so that there is an ongoing plan? And we all know that we are in our final year of council here as this group.
Right.
I'm not sure what, I guess I put the question out to yourself, Councillor Stefanik, for an idea of how you would see this come about as council.
I think next time there's some long-term discussion of this council, next council, because I think especially long-term, Mayor, we have to look at this very seriously. I think we had about 5 water breaks last year, total 5 or 6. We already have 1, and that's all the run infrastructure. And that added up over the, say, 5-6 years. The time will be very quickly to move on those projects. Re-roofing the arena, no question, it has to be done. It was done many years ago. It's going to develop leaks. So, I mean, next time this council discusses it, yeah, it covers some of the areas, but I think I emphasize the projects that are really crucial in the long term. There's many in the reports that we received over the years. But this council discussed it, and maybe when new council gets on board first year to tackle some of the projects, because they have to stay in the forefront. That's the reason I put them in your writing, Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. And just a question for yourself, Gail, on our planning that's coming up to wrap this year up, do we have anything that within our current strategic plan that we were going to look at it before the end of this term to see where we were at? Or we do have a reporting period coming up on it, I believe, eh?
Yeah, that's coming up at the next meeting, the reporting period. But I mean, you could set a meeting if you wanted to just kind of review what you've, like for council to review the strat plan itself. Not that you necessarily might not want to change it at this point, but then you'll have a good feeling of what is going on. Like if you were, you could add some, you could add a couple things to it if you wanted to. I don't know if there's any point to that at this point, but there will be some reporting coming up on the 26th. So you may find that sufficient.
Yeah, well, so when we have that reporting, I'm thinking Councillor Stefanik, and to give the rest of council an opportunity that we can decide at that time if sometime in our next few months of meetings where we set aside a portion of time and because I think it would be beneficial for what Drago has prepared here and to have the voice of the rest of council as well, so that those items are there for the next council, that, you know, this is, it's imperative that these things, and each of us might have different ones that are set in our mind and our forefront. So we might be able to come to a consensus amongst us to give the new council some direction so they're not totally blindsided. That might be a good idea. And it's up to them, right? It would be their prerogative what they would want. But I know when we got on, it would have been nice to have a bit of that direction for sure. So if that's beneficial to council, we'll look at that next report and we can we could continue that way. Councillor Stefanik?
Yeah, basically what meant to do this is a roadmap. You don't have to follow the road, but it's certainly nice to have a roadmap when you want to go from destination A to destination B. It was just a courtesy respect. The people will come on next on board. That was the intent. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. Okay. Moving on then to 12.4, Councillor Paroff, and I don't have any information with this, so I'm going to open the floor to you.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't submit anything in writing. I guess it was close to the end of in there. But what I was trying to get at is when I was working, doing some research for the Hornepayne Housing Corp, and starting to realize that our GIS system is not where it probably could be for a growing community like this. I do understand that we do have some basic ability to make pretty maps maybe, but it's the data collection and the ability to use the information here in town. I think our Public Works Department, even the town office would be able to benefit quite a bit from using that. You know, we're doing planning with the zoning bylaws and the official plan and future development. It could all be worked into a GIS, which would make the efficiency of using that information so much easier. All your tax information can go in there. It's easier to manage. It's easier to handle. It's like we're far behind other communities in bringing this on board. I think it'd benefit us and it'd show us that we're progressive when we go to for grants and apply with the ministry, that we could tell them that we have this GIS system, we're managing our infrastructure, we have up-to-date information all the time. I'd like to open up the discussion, I guess is the point here tonight, to see what we have and see what we need.
Okay, just some clarification. So currently we do have GIS. Could I maybe because I don't know if the staff is completely prepared to speak on it. And where would this fit in to staff roles, I guess would be my first, like, who does it? And where does the benefit? And then how do we pay for it to make it happen? So there's like steps to those stages would be my first concerns, and more information about it as well. I'm gonna go, Gail, could you give us some guidance on how we could proceed maybe with this?
Well, I do agree that in the long run, I think it would benefit us to have basically control over our own data, because it's always been, since we joined this, well, it used to be the NITGC, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was the same idea. They've got all the stuff on their server in Wawa, and they serve however many communities. But they have 2 or 3 staff members in that department handling all this stuff. So we have right now an agreement that extends till the end of December of this year. And honestly, right now, we don't have the capacity to handle any more. We would need, we don't even have the capacity to handle what we're doing, really. So I do agree that it's something that I'd love to have here, and we've talked about this several times over the last couple of councils, actually. And I'd love to see all of our street lights in there, all of our street signs, all of our, because it's and then the conditions of them all, and the GPS locations of everything, and the pictures of everything, and the cyclical reporting and the maintenance updates and all that. And that's a lot of work to do, and it's I think it's important work, and I'd love to be able to just, right now you can click on it and we can see the water line layer, the sewer line layer, the road layer. We can have orthophotography showing the trees and the buildings or whatever, or we can just click that off and just see property lines. We can see the addresses, but really it's fairly basic compared to what the system can handle. So to me, I think it's something that we need to look at more in the future, like finish out our agreement. And I don't know, if we can find a way to find some staffing and some money, it would be great to have our own bylaw officer as well as building inspector, and that person can, and even planning is a whole other thing, that now that we've got these new documents, the official plan and the zoning bylaw, really that falls to economic development, because usually it's economic development when you don't have a planning department, right? So Stacy and I were just talking about this today, because we're already getting inquiries. So that's something else that's wholly new to us and is really, really important, especially now when we're trying to grow and develop housing and all those sorts of things. So it would be great to be able to fund another position that could kind of handle all of those things. So I don't think we can do it internally right now, for sure. But I do agree that it would be great to have it locally, and we control our own information, and we do our own updates, and we can produce our own documents. I mean, Anders is good and Wawa is good to give us what we want and whatever, but we're not really hands-on. So we use it, a small percentage of what it could be used for. And I do know that the Public Works Manager does have a keen interest in this type of thing, but again, I mean, he just doesn't really have the time now. And we also have access to, possible access to another GIS component for asset management that we haven't really looked at too much yet, because we don't have the capacity to use it right now, number one. And number two, we want to make sure, we were trying to see if it could include our GIS system that we have now, that information combined with our asset management, rather than having two separate systems, which is silly. So one thing I thought was interesting, Councillor Paroff, you mentioned about tax information, which that I didn't realize you could do any of that. I don't know if we can do that with the system we have, or maybe that we can. From my understanding, it was more just the geographic information, unless there's another layer that I'm not aware of. But that would be great for sure if everything could be combined. So that was kind of long-winded, but all to say, I think it's a great idea. I think we do need to get there, but I think we've got too much on our plates right now to tackle it internally. I know we do.
Just by your thoughts on that, Gail, I wonder, is this something that if we want to transition to this, is this something that we can look at possibly going after funds where we contract for that initial feed of data? So it's not put on the staff, where they come in and take the pictures and GPS everything. Is that something that other communities may have done, or partner with a few communities? Maybe it's something we can talk to with the rural revitalization.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, it sounds like a good idea for sure. The only thing that we find is when we try to hire people like that, they're inexperienced people and they need a lot of guidance, and it takes a lot of time to do that. Like if we can get someone who's already kind of had a bit of experience and is like a self-starter sort of thing, I think that would be fantastic. And certainly if we could share costs with other communities, that would be great.
Okay, maybe this is something we should talk to the mayor's group about. John, do you have any further information? Or yeah, go ahead, Councillor Kistemaker, go ahead.
Your dealings with the Ogre group, would they be a good area to ask for input from?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. We have meetings, virtual meetings this month. I'll ask them when I'm there. Yeah, I was just gonna ask Councillor Paroff, do you have any, just a kind of higher level document of saying all the different things that a GIS could do?
I could put something together for you. Yeah, I could put something together. It would be, in my opinion only, that you'd probably want to shy away from going outside of town, just because you're still lacking that local information ability to manage it here in town.
Yeah, I like what Gail had said, is that get to a place where we're managing ourselves. It's just that initial big input into it would be, that would be quite a bit of work for like public works staff to take on, if that was the case, or that. Okay, so from this point, I'm willing to talk to, if you can get me some information, I'm definitely willing to talk to the other mayor's group. I don't think it's going to be a shock to Wawa and to that system that as communities grow, they're going to be looking at doing things on their own. And then definitely, Belinda, at your suggestion, I will reach out to the colleagues at Good Roads and see what they have to say. And John, if you would just want to have a call with me about that, just to give me a better understanding, so I have a clearer understanding in my mind when I'm talking to people about it, that would work too.
Yep.
Okay,
just let me know when you want to.
Yeah, okay. And did you want to have any further thoughts on this? I'll let you wrap up since it was your item.
No, I think I said what I wanted. I just wanted to open up the discussion was my primary goal tonight. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Paroff. Okay, moving on to 12.5. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and John. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by John Paroff. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize Melissa Chenier, Client Services Manager Treasurer, to transfer $45,057.62 to the Hornepayne Housing Corporation to fulfill the remainder of the Township of Hornepayne's commitment to the Municipal Services Corporation. Be it further resolved that these funds will be expensed from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, NWMO, Economic Development Funding Deferred Revenues. Any discussion on the motion? And there being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 12.6, municipal election. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Belinda. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby receive the following staff reports for consideration and discussion at the regular meeting of Council held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. CAO SR 2022-01 Municipal Election Alternative Voting Methods. CAO SR 2022-02 Municipal Election Question on the Ballot. So, Gail, would you like to speak to your report?
I don't think I have really anything to say on it. I think I described the descriptions that I've put in there, and the benefits and challenges came right from the handbook that we're using for our training this year. So I think they kind of say it best. Just to say that the responses from the surveys were, well, we didn't get a very good response rate, but the ones that did respond, 67% indicated they prefer the traditional ballot method. But I think it kind of speaks to it for itself. Unless there's, I can try and answer questions. I'm not totally up on everything right yet, but I can try.
Okay. And just one question I have is, when do we have to make a firm decision on which way we're going? Were you going to bring that resolution to the next meeting?
Yeah, it's a bylaw, actually. If you choose the voting method, it's a bylaw, and the sooner the better. Like February would be best, because I still have to prepare a manual, and there'll be a lot of changes to it if we're going with a different method. And you can't really go forward with your other things until you've got your manual complete. So I don't want to be rushing that at the end. So it'll be great to do it in February.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Paroff, go ahead.
Just to clarify, so either method, the paper and if you do it online, you said are both similar in costs?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
our election last time was, I should have looked it up, but it was, I'm going to say it was probably close to 12 grand maybe. And now that was 4 years ago. So by the time you pay all your staff, you need a lot more staff. You pay your staff and you have all your paper ballots you have to order, and all the polling station things you have to order, and all the training you have to do. That's just ends up what it costs. And for the electronic or the digital voting, you actually hire a company. You have to hire a company, and they handle that part of it. And we've done a couple of webinars with them, and last year they were over 10,000. They're all the same. They're all over 10,000. Then you've still got some staffing, you've got some rentals, and you've got some security issues, all those types of things. So it's going to be about the same.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Hey, Councillor Paroff, thank you, Gail. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good report, Gail. After really analyzing, I mean, we're not a large population. We've advanced polls of that day. I think the traditional for small community, I think it suffices in my opinion. If I remember correctly, last time the turnout was about 80% voter turnout, 81.4, I think. So that's an excellent turnout with the paper ballot. I would leave it a status quo. That would be my take on it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. Any other further comments or questions from council? Councillor Paroff, go ahead.
So are we going, I'm sorry, are we going to push this off until later on and have another discussion before we decide, or what's the next steps?
Well, I think we need to make a decision so that if we decide to do the alternative voting method, Gail has to do some background work on that for the bylaw. There's still the bylaw that's standing right now would still be standing because there's no bylaw required for where we're at right now, right? So, okay. But in the upfront work that would have to be done for the alternative voting method, would that ease some of the work that would be done during the election time? Like, are the costs and the work like the costs? I understand the costs are the same in like dollars, but in work, Is that,
I think, I'm gonna say I think yes, but I'm not entirely sure because obviously we haven't done that before and I'm not sure how much help people will need or how many issues we'll run into. I know you're to set up like a help, and I forget what it's called, but like a help center sort of thing, which we would have one of those on voting day where people could get help to actually vote. But once the keys go out into the mail, then we need to be available to direct people, like, if they don't get their key or if their key doesn't work or all those types of things that can come up if they have questions about security, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to have that set up here. So I'm not sure about that part. Definitely less staffing, less training. And the other thing for me is because it's new, there will be some changes to the election manual. And again, why it's important that we kind of do this sooner rather than later is because we need an emergency response plan, we need an accessibility plan, we need, there's another one I'm forgetting. And all those will have to change and be geared a little bit more towards whatever voting method we use. So I think there's going to be a little bit, I can't say it's more prep than last time because last time the Elections Act changed. So I couldn't even go from a previous manual really because there are so many changes. So it will actually be less work, but it'll be new work. Let's put it that way.
okay. So just for voter feel, if we were to do the new online and telephone, so they receive a card in the mail with their PIN, they go and vote at their own computer at home, or they can phone in. And they can still, on election day, go down to our poll, I'm going to assume it would be at the Legion, and vote there on a computer as well.
Yes, they can get assistance if they are unable to or aren't comfortable with it or whatever.
Or if they just want to traditionally vote. It would be accepted to be a ballot.
Yes, but but I wouldn't want to encourage that. Like that's going to cause a problem if we say, but you can wait if you want to, because then we won't have the staff. We won't have, like, it's really for people who are having issues or they don't, they have accessibility, they can't, whatever. They just need help. Maybe an older person or someone who is a little bit challenged or something like that. And I'm not saying anybody can't go down there, but the purpose of having this is to avoid all that. And then another thing about it that is good is things are counted automatically, like mechanically, and you get your results a lot quicker. Whereas last time, not that it really matters, but I mean, I was here till 2 a.m. No big deal, whatever. But those sorts of things are streamlined.
Right.
But
right.
again, like I'm sure there'll be some issues either way. I mean, this is just the nature of things. But yes, there is a place that people can go and get help. But that's not the intention. Is not for everybody to just come and do it there.
Right. Right. Well, I'm of a different opinion than Councillor Stefanik. I think that we need to move our community forward, and I don't think traditional paper ballots are going to be around for a while. Like, they're not going to be into the future, I don't think. And yeah, I would be for the online and telephone balloting. So I'm not sure other Councillor Paroff, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the more of the online version. It's just, there's a lot of work with the paper. I understand where Drago's coming from. I wouldn't have a clue how you would want to manage all that if this COVID restrictions are still in place. That's going to be a very, very busy evening, and you won't get a great turnout because of it, I believe. That's if in that scenario, but I think the online voting would be somewhere where we should be seriously looking at.
Yeah, I had those thoughts too, John, about the COVID restrictions, because I remember the last election when we did the counts and that, like, we had tables set up and then each person has their own scrutineers, and it's quite I wouldn't even know how you do it with the restrictions. I don't even think you could. I'm not even sure how, I don't even want to imagine how that all plays out. Let's hope it doesn't. So, Councillor Kissmaker, Belinda, go ahead.
The last few days, I've been asking people how they feel about online versus and telephone versus traditional, and I find it's just the ones that I asked. It seemed to be a more of an age thing when you talk about people around my age or whatever. They still want that traditional. They want to make sure they put that X down and that it's there. And they know they've done it. There's a lot of security talk. They just don't trust the computer. And the younger ones, they didn't, younger than around my age, I guess it really didn't matter to them. So it seems to me it's a real age issue.
Councillor Kissmaker, Peter, go ahead.
Yes, I would agree with Councillor Stefanik on this one. 67% of the respondents want traditional. I'm all for progress going forward, but I don't know if we're ready yet. But the one thing that does hold me back and sway me toward the new way is exactly what you indicated with COVID restrictions and where are we going to be in the fall? We might, like you said, Mayor Fort, just may be impossible to be the traditional way. I'm leaning towards the traditional way if it can be done, but you have to have the option left open to do it with this new way because of all the restrictions that may still be in place.
Good point, Councillor Kissmaker. I guess that's a good question to ask. If we do go traditional, what happens in the case that we can't? Do we have to revert to this quickly?
I don't know I don't think you'd be able to revert to it quickly. I don't really know what would happen. I think you'd have to extend your voting time or whatever, and just have whatever one at a time or whatever the restrictions would be. I think you just have to extend that voting period is what I'm thinking they would do. I don't really know that's not covered anywhere in any of the training that we've taken. So I think it's kind of up in the air, but I don't think you'd be able to switch it quickly because you need to hire somebody to do it. They need to get all your data, then they need to, make all the keys, and then they have to be mailed out. Like I don't see that happening.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Kissmaker. Peter, go ahead.
And also, we got to consider this too. Like we may even be mandated by the provincial government to do it this way. We may not have a choice in the matter.
If the numbers keep going, you mean, or if it still exists?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other further comments? We do need to give some direction because Gail does need to do the work if the we really can't take a vote without a motion. Or how are we? No consensus? Or we wait till we come to consensus? Yeah, my concern, I guess my real concern is obviously I'm for moving us towards where we're going to be. And sometimes, yes, I know people don't like to be pushed in that direction, especially when we see the responses we got. And that's forward thinking on staff about having the surveys out there and putting that together for us as well. But at the same token, I think it would be proactive to go to the online in the light of our current situation, that we don't know what the protocols are going to be come that time. And people will have enough time if we start now to know how it's going to roll out and the election, instead of having a bit of chaos at the end, that might be a better managed process. How is council feeling on those comments? Councilor Paroff, go ahead.
I think any which way we go, there's always going to be roadblocks. The future is that we're gonna have to do online voting anyways, whether it's this election or the next one. That's where everybody's going. That's the way it is. So, I mean, it is a difficult question. I don't know.
Yeah, it is, and I get it. Like, people want the same old, they're what they're used to and that sort of thing. But I think in this stance, I'm gonna stickler on the safety issue of it. I would rather prepare the community that we have a high voter turnout in our community. I don't think that's gonna decrease by because we change a method. We have enough time, and I have no problem putting that out there as the representative for our community, about giving information or that sort of thing. If that's even allowable, I would have to refer to Gail on that, about just so the community would know about the upcoming election if we were to change to that other process. Because it is 10 months out right now, and it would give them time, or just under 10 months out. Gail, do you have any comments or thoughts on this? Besides what you wrote, like, now that you've listened to our discussion?
Not really. I mean, it's actually, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, yeah, you would, it'd be easier to manage if there are COVID restrictions at the time. But then again, there was a federal election, and there were several elections around the world during COVID, and they happened. So I'm happy to do whatever it is that the council feels is right for the community. So I'm at your mercy.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure of the procedure. I've never done a vote without a motion. So I think that would be the easiest way to move forward. Gail, I have to refer to you for some guidance on that, on how I would do that.
Oh, well, yeah, if you're actually going to take a vote, we'll just have to write up a resolution, I suppose, and just council corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby agree to employ an alternative voting method for the 2022 election, and then defeat it or carry it, I would say.
Okay. Council, do you feel like that's where we need to go? Okay. For the first resolution that's on, or motion that's on the floor right now, is just accepting the 2 reports. If I can get a vote on that first, those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, Gail, are you able to draft that on your end?
Yep, I'm just doing it right now.
Okay, great. Look at this, guys. We're into our final year of council, and we still don't got everything down pat of how we do stuff.
Okay.
Are you ready for a mover and a seconder?
Yep.
If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by John, second by Peter. And if you could read that out, please, Gail.
Sure. The Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby agree to employ an alternative voting method consisting of online/telephone voting for the 2022 municipal election. Be it further resolved that a bylaw will be drawn up for adoption at the next regular meeting of council.
Okay, and
Sorry, can I just add to that?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't have to add to it, because if you defeat it, then that's okay.
Okay,
We're good.
okay, and I'm gonna put that to a vote. And I'll put it to a vote. Those in favor? Okay, and are we gonna record this vote? Sorry, I need a person from council. John, we're doing a recorded vote. Okay, so
Yes,
those in
please.
favor are Mayor Fort, Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, Councillor John Paroff. And those opposed? Councillor Peter Kistemaker and Councillor Drago Stefanik. And that is carried. I think, is that our first recorded vote?
I think it might be. Might have been one a long time
I'm
ago.
sort
not sure.
of rusty on this, guys. I'm like,
Just so you don't miss the second report on the question on the ballot,
yes.
because we need a bylaw for that if there's going to be a question on the ballot.
Sorry, we got all hung up in the one. I put that report right away. Okay, open up the floor for discussion. I think this, for the background, that we had discussed having a question on the ballot before because of when the NWMO was in our community. Is there anything right now that council would see as pertaining to being needed on the ballot? I don't see any. Councillor Paroff, go ahead.
No, I don't have a specific question, but when I read it, it sounded like if we pass it, then the opportunity to, if a question arises between now and then, we can put it on. But if we don't pass it now, we cannot put a question on the ballot. Is that correct?
Well, you have to identify the question and we have to notify the minister and the public. So you kind of have to know what you're
Oh, thanks for the
going to do.
clarification.
And the thing is, yeah, and I think that, again, the earlier the better. Actually, I think the deadline for this is March something for that one. But the earlier the better, because again, it depends on, then you have to actually put that information on the ballot. So it's your ordering and all the stuff you have to do in the background. So you kind of have to make a decision.
Well, I'm for not doing it. I don't think there's anything pressing that needs to be on the ballot. And I think it'd be a lot of extra work, but I do want to thank you, Gail, for bringing the report to our attention, because in the past, so it would have been even our last election, we would have had to have this in place had we wanted to do that, correct? So I do like that it's there, because now this report is there for a future council to see and pique their interest, or the future staff. Okay, so consensus, no direction for Gail on that. It's received as information that we passed. Council, moving on. Yes, okay. Okay, item 12.7. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and John. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by John Peroff. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby receive staff report number CAOSR 2022-04 Northern Ontario Resource Development Supports Program as information at the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. And Gail, did you want to speak to your report or add to it?
Sure. I'm sure you're sick to death to hearing from me this meeting. And now you all know what I did over Christmas. But anyways, I just kind of try. The only reason I brought this back, because we did have a discussion at the last meeting, but I didn't have the information on the guidelines and I didn't have the actual application to look at. So the only reason I brought it back was just because I wanted to let you know that the application is a little bit more. They had made it sound like it was just a thing you had to kind of sign and say, oh yeah, I want to do A, B, or C. But they need to know the project description, the timeline, the project budget for the entire project. So they're asking for a lot more information than it's made it sound like it was going to be. And they do emphasize that you can change this in the next year or any of the next 4 years. You can easily just change your project. So anyways, the SMT met a couple of times and tried to think of some ideas that council might want to do and or things that we might want to see done in the community. So then I was starting to think, well, you know, do we want to use it short term? Originally we had said, well, let's kind of pull it together and use it towards a big project. But then when we got that information, we're like, well, let's think about this again and bring everything to the table. So we did think of some short-term projects that we could do. And then there's, of course, the Green Stream application that we've applied to do 3rd Ave water and sewer and road repaving. We haven't heard back on that yet. We haven't been approved for that yet, but that definitely would fit. That's the easiest one that would fit the criteria for a large capital project. Arena would be a good one. I don't know how we would tie resource to that, but we could try. And then there's working on Becker Road. The only thing with that is we've already got so much going. Do we want to start another project that we don't have? We'll also need to borrow money for. Landfill expansion, that may be something that we could put money towards if we wanted to. And then the short term, probably a portion of the relocation of the ball field we could do. There's airport brushing that'll have to be done in the future. Brushing along Government Lake Road. Dwayne advised that Becker Road is pretty good for brushing right now. So long and the short after all of this is to give you these ideas of things that we could do, but the simplest one for us to do, because the project's outlined, the timelines are there, the budget is there, is to put in for the one for 3rd Ave for the Green Stream for now, and then you're welcome to change your mind at the end of the year. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe I don't know when the deadline's going to be for the next submission to go in. It might be after your term's done, or it might be before your term's done. I'm not sure. But whatever council is in would have the ability to change their mind on this project. But saying that, it still gives you an opportunity to think about what else you might want to do with the money when we have more time to think about it, because we kind of put this out in a hurry at the end of the year. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think from our last discussion, council, we had discussed at length about leaving this money into the future because we have so much going on this year. And it is changeable, Gail. So if you do that easier portion of the Green Stream, we can't, if the future council doesn't want to do that, they can adjust, right?
Absolutely.
Unless council, like, do we want to open it back up for discussion to do other projects, or Drago's saying no? I'm just saying, where are we going to fit it in? We have, like, there's lots going on. Councillor Kistemaker, Belinda, do you have any comments? Or?
No, I thought that we would hold off and make a bigger kitty.
Okay, so we're still on that same. Councillor Peroff, I see your mic's unmuted.
Yeah, like for the long-term ones, it would be The landfill or the arena would be the two big ones I'm thinking of right now. But if we have the option of postponing it or saving it to later, I think that might be an option as well.
Yeah, okay. So I think we have consensus to fill in the application by what is ever most expedient for you. And because it will be up to the other council of how they want to move forward. Okay, so that motion is on the floor to receive the staff report. And I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. I do thank you, Gail, though, for bringing it back to council after you had further information and look, and thank you. Okay, moving on to item 14. Before I start item 14, we are at 7:44 and we do have a bit more of our agenda. Does anyone need a break now? We could take a 10-minute break now and then come back for item 14 and carry on. Yes, we're doing, okay, I'm gonna call a 10-minute break right now. So if council, we can resume here. You don't have to just shut your cameras off and that sort of thing at 7:55, please. Thank you. Welcome back. There, we're all back. Okay. Great. I hope everyone's refreshed for the rest of our meeting. So we're moving on to item number 14, bylaws. 14.1, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and Drago. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by Drago Stefanik. Be it resolved that bylaw number 1900, being a bylaw to enter into a contribution agreement between the Township of Hornepayne and the Federal Economic Development Agency for the Northern Ontario FedNor regarding the Northern Ontario Development Program, NODP, Canadian Community Revitalization Fund, CCRF, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Any discussion on the bylaw? There being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 14.2. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. John and Belinda. Moved by John Paroff, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 1901, being a bylaw to levy certain interim rates, taxes, and charges for the year 2022, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Any question or comments on the bylaw? There being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item number 14.3, delegation of authority. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Peter. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 1902, being a bylaw to authorize the delegation of authority to the Chief Administration Officer, Clerk, for certain acts during the lame duck periods related to the 2022 municipal election, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Any discussion on the bylaw? There being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 14.4, emergency management program and response. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and John. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by John Paroff. Be it resolved that bylaw 1903, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and an emergency response plan, and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Be it further resolved that resolutions number 12319, number 12874, number 12896, and number 2018-492 be rescinded attached. Any discussion on the bylaw? I just have one question about the bylaw, and it's reference to page 4. Under our official scribe, through the bylaw, we don't name any other players or personnel. And I'm just wondering why we just didn't name the title. Is it because we passed the resolution that included the person's name?
Yeah, we have a resolution for that one, and actually I questioned that myself because one of the other, I don't know if it's that one or one of the other ones, does list the title and the name, and the other one's done, but that's the template he gave me to use. So I just followed the template, and this is the second or third year in a row that he keeps asking for alterations, and I get direction to get what he wants, and then it seems to be the next year there's something else that's not in place. So I thought it was safest just to follow the template.
Yeah, okay. Why I bring that up to council is in past, we've come across bylaws that have people's names, addresses by their names, that sort of thing, and trying to just bring it away from that so it's more generic. But if that's how the template reads, I'm good with that. That was my only question. Okay, any further comments or question on the bylaw? Okay, there being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. And who knew that we would be working through this emergency plan so much? Okay, item number 15 and 16, there being none. 17. So we're entering into a closed session. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Peter. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting at 8:03 p.m. be closed to the public in order to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, pursuant to section 239 2B of the Municipal Act 2001. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, council, you have your closed session meeting links. So we'll meet you there.
I used to be last, no more.
Okay. Okay, we're all back. Just let me know when we're recording, or I guess when I hear it. We don't have to wait for anything on the video.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, council, if I can get a mover and a seconder to return to open. Belinda. And Peter. Moved by Belinda Kistemaker, second by Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby return to open council at 8:24 p.m. Those in favor? And that is carried. And just so the community knows, there's no further business arising from the closed session at this time. And item number 19, the confirmatory. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Drago and Belinda. Moved by Drago Stefanik, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 1904, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at their regular meeting held on Wednesday, January 12, 2022, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, and our adjournment motion, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Peter and Belinda. Moved by Peter Kistemaker, second by Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January the 12th, 2022 at 8:25 p.m. Those in favor? And that is carried.